This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
This is your Esoteric Tuesday on the Fan. Leader Fan Radio Network.
What do you mean?
I don't know. And KFAN.com. 2 minutes, 28 seconds past 3 Central Daylight Saving Time. Welcome back. It's a Tuesday production of the Bumper to Bumper program on a suddenly summer-like Tuesday afternoon here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. My name is Dan Barreiro. I host the program. And we're running all the way till 6:30 tonight, I think. Guardsy is back. How did it go with the last day of school? Was it emotional?
Very emotional. Yeah, very emotional, as it always is. I think more emotional for the teachers than maybe the parents.
Often is, yeah.
Yeah, but it was great.
The
it
rite
was
of
wonderful.
passage, yeah.
And now it's summer.
One more year, and now reality's about to set in.
Seriously. Yeah, it's all up to us now for the summer.
Just drop them off and, say, whew, at the start of the day and say, God, it's somebody else's problem for a while. Right,
exactly.
Now it's your problem again.
For at least 10, 12 weeks.
That's it. I'm sure you have a very busy summer planned, nevertheless. We have a delightful, I think, entertaining program slated for you today. We'll give you details regarding the two-person, at least for now, guest lineup in just a couple minutes. Kevin Seifert generally joins us on Tuesdays, but we had him preview Vikings. These are mandatory. This is a mandatory minicamp, right? Today, tomorrow, and Thursday. Is that correct?
I believe so, yeah.
And I'm sure you'll monitor the wires if there's any kind of trepidation about a hitch in J.J. McCarthy's throwing motion. Seifert pretty much acknowledged that they will do whatever they can to blow whatever takes place utterly and completely out of proportion.
Yes.
Despite the fact that the calendar still reads June.
We did find out that Christian Darrisaw was on the field for some stuff today. I think he did individual stuff today, which is good.
Does that mean he's ahead of schedule?
Well, we know that he's attacking his rehab, right? Because you can't just do your rehab anymore in 2025. In the Vikings organization, you must attack it. And we know that Christian has attacked his rehab, and that's why he's out there.
Would you expect any other approach?
No, you have to attack it.
Especially from Christian Darrisaw. Bumper-to-bumper policy decision. Can we, from this point forward, just start referring to J.J. McCarthy as J-Mac, as some have suggested? Or do you find that offensive? J-Mac. Just so to distinguish, so we don't have to play the J.J. versus J.J. game. We don't have to say Jets. Because I don't love Jets.
You don't like Jets.
No.
I like Jets.
Seifert doesn't like it either. I'm not crazy about Jets.
Interesting. I think we could call him J-Mac.
J-Mac.
I like that. It differentiates us a little bit, which we always like.
J-Mac and J.J. J-Mac.
J-Mac is pretty good.
Has he ever been called, like at Michigan, was he ever called J-Mac?
I'm not sure.
We know? I don't know that I've ever heard it. But
I'm surprised KOC hasn't called him that, because he likes to do the nickname bit.
Somebody brought it up to me yesterday via text, and that's the first time I'd actually heard it. Now, maybe it's been out and about, and a lot of people, even on the station, have called him that.
Maybe we'll find out he has a J-Mac tattoo that we didn't know about.
Yeah, that's very possible. So we'll monitor the wires, and we have a lot of correspondence who will keep us updated if there's anything funky about what takes place. This would be day one of training camp, correct? Well, when I say training camp, I mean minicamp, mandatory minicamp in this case. That's the plan. So I mentioned that we are indeed your Esoterica on a Tuesday leader or something like that, because between now and 6:30, my goal is that we explore two sports that I think many people view as more esoteric sports, whether they should be described as that or not. They're not as mainstream. They're not as, at least not in the United States of America, they're not studied quite as passionately as football, certainly, basketball, baseball, and don't forget hockey. Good Lord, I could never, ever, ever, ever forget hockey.
I went in on the hockey community last night.
Did you really?
Yeah, I took Johnny Athletic's mantle for an hour or two.
I had a hunch because it was sitting there. Was it that it was such a bad game, you mean?
just the nonsense in the entire third period.
Okay, right.
Just the fighting.
Once it broke down,
we're losing. Let's just try to hurt people because we're getting our ass kicked and we're embarrassed. Yeah. It's just preposterous, but I don't want to go on a tangent.
No, it's... I don't know how many times I wrote about that way back in the day, and maybe that's when the schism between me and the hockey community began. I don't know. It's. I can't sit here and say that the sport would be less nichey if that nonsense was eliminated.
Yeah.
But I will say that it can't help. I just think, and there's still too many people in hockey who believe it serves a purpose and it should be grandfathered in and remembered forever and respected forever. And it's, once again, let's just be honest about one thing. It is literally the only major sport that tolerates that crap, right?
Yeah.
It's the only one.
Right. That just writes it off.
That writes it off as sort of part of the deal.
The Edmonton coach, I think, last night said, we wouldn't have done that if it was a one-goal game. Boys are going to be boys.
Yeah,
essentially is what he said.
It's the only sport.
Doesn't make any sense.
No. There is no other sport in which that's just sort of tolerated and said, yeah, just sort of part of the deal.
The line that may have gotten me in trouble with the hockey community is you get the proverbial, don't watch then. If you don't like it, don't watch. Or stick to tennis, which is always convenient. And the line that may have me in trouble is when someone told me not to watch, I wrote, like the rest of America, I usually don't.
Whoa, that's Johnny Athletic like.
And he did. Johnny Athletic responded to that one. Yeah, he actually responded and goes, wow, that's deep even for me. Yeah. So anyway.
Why can't we all get along?
I'm not sure. I don't think we can.
For me, it was even before that, it was more, it's a bad game. I mean, it was one-sided. And what we've been told, basically, what Fallness was doing, of course, was every game's great, and there's no such thing as a bad game in hockey playoffs, and it's like, well, no, the truth is there are bad games in every sport, and you just had that. You had one last night. I mean, that was, I don't know, I can't even imagine what the rating ended up being on that game. I got to believe certainly lower than any Caitlin Clark preseason game, that's for sure. But I digress, and now I'm completely off track.
That's my fault. I'm sorry.
No, but it's red meat for me too. So I think when we're talking about the sports of tennis and soccer obviously is the most popular sport in the world, but still in the professional sense, even the Olympic sense, I think it's not, or World Cup sense, it's still not as mainstream here, despite the ongoing efforts to try to grandfather it in. And I want to talk about soccer today, and I want to talk about tennis, which is, I know, still kind of up your alley. In fact, we did talk some tennis Sunday, having to do more. It really didn't have to do as much with the sport itself as it did the reaction from after the Sabalenka-Goff women's title round, French Open. And we got into, much to the delight of Vikings fans, my effort to draw a straight line between Vikings-Saints NFC title game reaction and Sabalenka reaction to losing to Coco Gauff.
Yeah.
And Sabalenka, as you probably know, basically said, I think I still have the quote highlighted, she won the match not because she played incredible, just because I made all of those mistakes from, if you look from the outside, from easy balls. And I said, we're back in that familiar territory of I outplayed her, or the Vikings outplayed the Saints, but we didn't win the game. It wasn't what the other team did to us or what the other tennis player did to me. It's what I did to myself, what the Vikings did to themselves. And I'll continue to say and insist that we need a revolution when it comes to defining outplaying, or in a better appreciating that part of being almost always, part of being a champion, part of being great, isn't just making great plays, it's avoiding bad ones. We need to understand that's part of it. So the yardage doesn't matter. Cheating came up, it might, but cheating had nothing to do with the botched exchange between Brett Favre and Adrian Peterson at the 4-yard line with the score tied in the final minute of the second quarter.
I thought we were talking tennis. Why are we doing this?
So I started with that, But then the men's final, I don't know where people are ranking it. It has to rank as one of the greatest, most mythic comebacks in tennis history, and certainly maybe even sports history, does it not?
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah, so I that's part of why I wanted to acknowledge that. It's okay to acknowledge the esoteric sports to that extent, right? Every once in a while. It's not going to kill us to do it. And you can bring added insight to it because of your interest in the sport. I retweeted or reposted, somebody tweeted out, I'm going to print this, put it up on my wall, and look at it when any situation looks utterly hopeless. And it's a shot of Carlos, how do you pronounce his last name? Alcaraz? Alcaraz.
Yep.
Clay all over the back of the shirt that I think has 5 holes in it.
Yeah.
On the baseline, with the current conditions, he's down 2 sets to 1, right?
Yep, 5-3.
He's down 5-3 and is facing 3 championship points. It's a brilliant photo and an outstanding tweet, I thought.
Yes.
And so I think we're going to spend some time on that. To the good, I think. That because the headline, I want to see if you agree with this too. Wall Street Journal, tennis was supposed to get boring. Nobody told Carlos Alcaraz and Yannick, is it?
Yep.
Sinner. So I want to talk about his premise in the piece and then what you saw regarding that mythic comeback. On the more negative side, when it comes to the esoteric world of sports, I think we also need to talk a little bit of World Cup soccer, because I'm getting the feeling that, well, I'll ask the more general question from the soccer community. On the men's side, why do we continue to stink? Why do we continue to struggle? Why is everybody already, now what, a year away from the World Cup, already sending out alarm bells that we're going to get embarrassed again? All of the time and investment and money and blood, sweat, and tears we've spent on jump-starting this sport in the United States of America, our population, and we can't field a sure thing in men's soccer. So those are the 2 esoteric sports that I want to cover today. So I'm hoping to hear from the tennis community beyond you, and definitely hoping to hear from the soccer community as well. Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is open at 64686. Bottom of the hour, Dateline somewhere in Italy. He'll tell us. Louis will join a little earlier than usual because of the time difference, and we'll give you the rest of the guest lineup as well in just a couple minutes. Don't go.
Incubus bringing their Morning View and the Hits tour to Treasure Island Amphitheater Saturday, July 5th. Experience the magic of their double platinum album and smash hits like Drive and Wish You Were Here live. Do not miss this epic night coming up in about a month. Get all the details, TICasino.com.
Do we go soccer or tennis first? Let's go with the tennis first, and then we'll get, because I do have a lot of good soccer texts that have already come in on the question of why we can't seem to get anywhere. We apparently we lost to Turkey 2-1 Saturday, and for that reason, the current U.S. manager has suffered 3 consecutive defeats. That's the first time since the team's last highly paid foreign coach, Jurgen Klinsmann. Remember him in 2015?
We didn't like him. We ran him out.
We didn't like him.
I never understood that.
We didn't think he liked it here.
I don't think he did.
Appreciated it here. So there's a lot of, it seems now we're literally 365 days out, right? So you could say that this is kind of, wait a minute, you panic, nothing's happened yet, but all the signs are a little bit ominous for a sport that doesn't really have, on the men's side, right, much equity at all.
Very little.
So we'll save that. The tennis, so generally speaking, philosophically speaking, where are you on that whole issue of what was raised by Is it Arena? How do you say her first name?
Sabalenka? Yeah,
Arena Sabalenka's approach that she took to that age-old question of, well, did she win? Did Coco win the match, or did I lose it? Because I just don't think. I think that's always part of it, and it's not a real meaningful distinction. What did you make of her reaction? I mean, is she known for somebody who just gets cranky?
Yeah.
Did they catch her at a bad moment?
A little bit, yeah. And this is a tournament I don't believe she's ever won. She kind of broke through a few years ago and then had to deal with a lot of high-profile losses before she finally won some majors. She's been the best player in the world probably for about the last year. She's tremendous. And this was another big one that she had not yet conquered. So I'm sure it wasn't the best moment for her psychologically, because she probably should be favored in that match, as good as Coco is. And she did it basically right away in the trophy ceremony. What I noticed was, this is a different part that's not even really covered in that quote, talking about how windy it was and how the conditions were bad. And she basically said, it's a shame that after playing so great for 2 weeks, I played so terrible today in these terrible conditions. And I don't think she meant anything by it. I think she was being honest, but it always goes back to like snow on the football field or windy.
The other competitor is also playing in the same conditions.
Those are the breaks. Yeah. When you're playing an outdoor sport, it might be a little bit different one day. And top level players feel every little difference at levels that mere mortals like the rest of us don't even understand, from what the temperature is to the wind to the tension of the strings to the balls, the whole bit. So I'm sure there was some of that, but part of what I think makes tennis great is you got to deal with that sometimes. You wake up one day and you've been playing in conditions for a week and a half and you think it's going to be one way and it's a little bit windier that day and you've got to figure it out. And a lot of that is the mental side of it, that you got to be tough enough to figure out a way to still play your best, or at least play well enough to beat just one person on the other side. So I'm sure it was just frustration and disappointment, but also some honesty with how she probably felt, because she had been playing so well. And then I think it was 70 unforced errors she had.
70, yeah, compared to just 37 winners.
Right, and that's part of it. Like it's
got to be.
When the conditions are bad, you can't swing like you're playing at an indoor court where everything's pristine. That's just part of figuring out the deal that day.
You can have double the number of first downs and 200 more yards total offense like the Vikings did against the Saints, and I'd still say if you're -4 in the turnover deal, which is what the Vikings were, and by the way, not all those turnovers were because the Saints cheated. Like I said, the botched exchange had nothing to do with that. Those are just, so that's football's version of an unforced error.
Yeah.
But that also counts. So I get weary. I understand how, there's these are prideful athletes, the whole bit. But I think it again speaks to how we have to sort of change the way we look at winning or outplaying the opposition, because I would say Coco Gauff outplayed her.
Yes.
If she avoided as many of the mistakes and dealt with or took advantage, maybe a better way to put it, those mistakes as well. So how about the comeback? Where does the Alcaraz comeback on Sunday rank?
I mean, I've thought a lot about that, because I watched all 5.5 hours of that on Sunday. I did not intend to watch all 5.5 hours of that match. I intended to watch it and then kind of see what happened and then go on with the rest of your day.
Can you imagine how long it might have gone if they were still using wood rackets?
Or if they didn't have the 10-point super tiebreaker in the fifth.
That's true. I forgot about that.
After our guy John Isner had the 70-68 at Wimbledon, 15 years ago, they changed all those rules. And so for me, I'm going to limp in and say top 5. I'd have to really think about it. There's a few Federer, Nadal, Wimbledons that go there. There's a couple Djokovic, Nadal, Djokovic, Federer matches that go there. But for just thinking Alcaraz is dead, he comes back from the dead. Then later you think Sinner's dead because it looks like he's got nothing left in the tank. That's what I don't think gets talked about enough. It looked like for a minute Alcaraz was going to run away with the fifth because Sinner looked like he was gassed. And the whole story, there were 2 stories. Alcaraz has never come back from 2-0 down to win. And Sinner can't win a match when it goes over 4 hours. And it looked like for a minute, both of those things were going to be true. And at different points, I thought Alcaraz was done. Then I thought Sinner was done. Then when Sinner got the break back, I'm thinking, how does Alcaraz come back from this? And he comes back and does obviously come back from it and play an unbelievable super tiebreaker. I think won the first 8 or 9 points. It was no one really knows, even in the tennis world, how to describe it because it was so mythic. And the level was so high that me watching, conservative estimate, Dan, I'd probably say 20 times I just laughed out loud to myself. Like, oh my God, I can't believe the shot that they just hit, or I can't believe that point, or I can't believe he got that. I can't believe he tried that and it worked. It was such a ridiculous high level, and it was a pleasure and a joy to watch. And I didn't intend to watch all 5.5, but as I texted one of my tennis buddies, how could I possibly leave? It was unbelievable.
Jason Gay, not long ago, tennis fans used to dread this moment, the dying embers of the glorious Big Three era. Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal are now folding their Nike headbands in retirement. Novak Djokovic, or is it Djokovic?
Djokovic.
Is clinging on, but lonely, a goat chasing ghosts. After three men collectively won 66 major tournaments, mostly playing each other, a men's tennis recession didn't merely feel realistic. It felt like the natural cycle of things. After the simultaneous symphony of Roger, Rafa, and Novak, the sport would need time to rebuild itself and rise again. Or maybe it wouldn't rise at all. At that point, he says, enter Alcaraz and Sinner. So do you agree with his premise? And is this enough to indicate that a new era of tennis is being ushered in as we speak?
Yeah, I agree with all of it. It felt like after those three, you just mentioned the numbers, 66 major championships. That's so abnormal. I'm old enough to remember when Pete Sampras broke Roy Emerson's record of 13 major championships. I remember when he did it, either broke it, I think it was 12. He got 13 and tacked on 14. And I just remember him being on fumes at Wimbledon, like trying to just get that record. It was such a mythic big deal. Those three ran right by it and then ran right by it again, basically essentially trying to double up on those records. So it felt like everything was going to be a lot more wide open on the men's side because those three basically took all the oxygen. I think there's only one or two other major winners in that time frame in the last 10, 15 years. It doesn't feel as open now. And for a time, it looked like Sinner was really going to separate and be the clear-cut number one. But Alcaraz has gotten himself back into the conversation as well. And now I do think it's those two. And who's going to join them? Right. Can anybody join them? Because they can all win on all surfaces now. It's not like one guy's good on clay, one guy's good on grass, one guy's good on hard. The game now, everybody can win on all the surfaces. And so I did expect it to be a little bit more wide open than it's been, but these two have won the last 6. So I think the number kind of speaks for itself. All right.
I've got a couple more tennis questions I will save so we can stay on schedule. I do want to get your reaction to John McEnroe apparently causing a furor with a couple of his observations.
Interesting.
Do you know about that?
I don't
story?
know.
Okay, I'll save that for later. And we will get to the soccer stuff. We got a lot of good texts to come in on the world of U.S. men's soccer as well. So let's stay on schedule and let's talk puck. Now is Florida pretty much in control of a series that a lot of people have predicted could go 7. It still could, but let's see what changed. Let's see how much of it Louis saw. Dateline, I'm guessing the Amalfi Coast in Italy, Luigi joins us long distance now.
Well, she sneaks around the world from India to Carolina. She's a sticky-fingered filcher from Berlin down to Belize. She'll take you for a ride on a slow boat to China. Tell me, where in the world is Lou Nanne?
Brought to you by Kemp's. As always, coming today live from George Clooney's Cabana, Dateline, Italy. Is that correct? Are you at the Clooney Cabana right now?
I think Clooney's up in Lake Como.
That's
I'm
right.
down in Sorrento.
I should have known better. Yeah,
I'm a ways away.
you wouldn't even take the time, right? You got bigger fish to fry in Italy than messing with George Clooney, right?
Yeah, we probably have different interests.
It's probably true. How's the weather currently?
It's been absolutely spectacular. We've had 4 days here, just mind-boggling. Whether this whole area is so sensational. You know, it's probably the most populated by tourists part of Italy, next to Rome. And everybody wants to come down here, and it just understanding that it's such a beautiful place, and you always seem to get good weather, and you got marvelous scenery, and you got unique type of grounds and area, and the people are so friendly, and the food's so good, and it's just a wonderful place to be.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, because places, especially it seems in Europe, that have become massively popular and maybe ever more popular year after year for some of the reasons you just laid out, are sometimes having some fatigue issues. I know there's a few places in Spain, for example, where there's been frustration among the locals, you know, that we're being too much overtaken by folks who want to visit us. Is that at all a challenge in the part of Italy you're in or elsewhere? And you know, because obviously tourism that's money, that's business, that's commerce, that's important. But I could see where the locals sometimes say, my God, we don't need everybody to come here every summer.
Well, you know, Dan, I saw a little comedy bit on absolutely remarkable on my telephone last week. And I think maybe it speaks to why it's not like that in Italy. And a guy was making fun of being Italian and being in Italy, and he says, you know, in August, we don't worry about other people, because in August we take the month off. and the guy says, how can you take the month off? He says, because we're Italian. That's what we do. And he says, and then they got this day, August 15th is Ferragosto Day. He said, what's that? He says, that nobody could be doing anything. So if you're sick, you die. He says, and with that kind of attitude, it's just that they realize that that's the time they're going to take off, and the rest of the time they're there to serve people that come down, you know, and be responsible hosts. And the people, the attitude is just amazing. I was here, some of my business friends came over from Marrakesh too, and Dan Daly and his wife and son, and they were just remarking, why would we go anywhere else in the world? And it's so funny, because Francine and I had gone down by the water after we came back from town to just have a drink, and the guy gets in the elevator with us, and he says, thanks for holding the elevator. And I said, you're welcome. He said, oh, you're from the States? Yeah. And where? I said, Florida and Minnesota. And I said, how about you? He says, Sarasota. I said, oh, you enjoying it here? He says, I come every year here. Why would I go anywhere else? With this area the way it is, and with the hotel like it is, he says, this is just a regular year for us. We come back every year.
You know, I don't want to make it sound like nobody who's Italian-born and still there has emotional problems or issues, right? I mean, everybody, there's issues. Everybody's got challenges. I don't want to make it sound like it's a panacea. Yet, it feels like there is a mentality that many people in the States kind of say, why can't we have a little bit more of that? Now, maybe that's just what you always think, that the grass is always greener on the other side, but you know Italy extremely well. You obviously have background there as well. If you were describing the culture, or you were describing the approach to living that seems perhaps to maybe be a little bit different than what we're accustomed to in the United States, how would you describe it to somebody who's never been there?
It's a place where people want you to enjoy what they have and what they live with and how they are. They don't want to disappoint you. Their ambition, and really, and it doesn't matter what type of job they do, they want to please you. I just can't believe, no matter where we go in the country, that people can't do enough for you. And it doesn't matter if they don't expect anything from you. They don't do it for money. They do it because they want you to like who they are, what they do, and where they are. And it's just a universal feeling in this country. I had Tom Sagasor, a friend of mine that runs RBC Wealth, and I called him yesterday about a business deal. And he said, where are you? I said, I'm in Sorrento. He said, Louis, I just came down from Lake Como. I'm in Florence. He says, I love your country. I can't get enough of it. I've never been here before. Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of feeling that people have. And it's all because of the way people treat you and want you to be, for all the times I've been here, which is many, I never seem to get in a situation where somebody's upset with me or I'm upset with them.
In other words, they're not like the French. That's
exactly. My wife just says, and she knows that's true because we've had some problems. As soon as they know you're an American,
Yes.
and we've had, I can tell you a number of stories there, things change.
No, it's a stereotype, but there is some truth to it. Everybody's had that experience, and there's a reason some of that stereotype exists. It's interesting too, because I think I've never been to Italy, unfortunately. I need to try to get that done, but I've been to Spain. Obviously, my family is Spanish, and I've always felt there are similarities there, that there is a great kinship between the Spaniards and the Italians, and a lot of similarities from a cultural standpoint. Do you agree?
Oh, definitely. The Romance languages, when they say these nationalities are Romance languages, certainly have an affinity to one another, and there's so many similarities that you sometimes you can't tell where they're from, which one of it is it from, And one of the hot spots in the country, in the world right now, is Portugal too.
Yeah, the good point.
And
yes,
Portugal and Spain share a lot of similarities that you have in Italy, and I think that's one of the reasons why. It's not only the sights when you go on a vacation, it's how you feel, how you're treated, and most of all, how relaxed are you? You have a feeling here you're not concerned about your safety, and I think that's a big thing. We got a problem in Italy, Spain, all over Europe, a lot of places.
Sure.
You have to watch out for pickpockets. That's the big problem you have to watch out for. You got to be careful of that, and I'm not going to be saying something that doesn't exist all over here. But outside of that, I've never had a situation, especially in Italy, where you fear for your safety.
I think the word is warmth. You're talking about the Romance language. Warmth. Warmth is the word.
Yeah.
It's undeniable. It's remarkable.
Yeah, I think that's the best word. That's perfect.
So refresh my memory on, because in the old country in Spain, it was always everybody ate dinner late. So is it still is it the same in Italy pretty much? What's the average dinner time for most Italians?
Well, I'd say 8 o'clock. 7:30. We went tonight 7:30 because I was doing a radio show, but 7:30 to 8 o'clock is usually. In fact, they didn't open a restaurant till 7:30 tonight. We were the first ones in it. So I'd say 8 o'clock is usually a time, but many times you have to remember in Italy, like they do in some of the other European countries, they take a siesta in the afternoon, so they might sleep for 2 hours. They might close their store for 2 hours. So they will come back later and work later and eat later. But 8 o'clock would be a perfect time, I'd say, to have dinner over here.
Have you been to Sicily?
Yeah, and I love Sicily. Taormina is very similar to Positano.
Okay.
It's built up on a hill way above the water, and there, Sicily was really, you might as well say, constructed and built by the Greeks, and there's so much Greek influence there. But then the Italian presence came in to take over, and it's a wonderful area. Palermo's industrial. I'm not crazy about Palermo, but there are some other nice towns there. But I'll tell you, a sleeper of them all is Malta. Malta is a commercial place. You can almost eat off the streets there. It's so clean and modern, and it's a big tech center. And that's only, I'd say, about 60 miles from Palermo.
Larry Mondello guy writes, this segment of Bumper to Bumper brought to you by the Amalfi Coast, Italy Visitors Bureau. Yeah, we're giving, I have no problem giving that kind of commercial, and you are our eyes and ears there as well. It does occur to me now, when I think about how many conversations we've had while you've been traveling over the world. I know there's like a million travel shows. There should be a Lou Nanne travel show. You should have been all along doing some talk to Andrew Zimmern is the master of developing these kinds of shows. You should have your own travel show, even if it's like a limited edition, Louis.
Well, I got to tell you, if I did, the first thing I'd do is correct what I always thought. I always thought Sorrento was part of the Amalfi Coast. It's on the other side of the mountain. It's like the Amalfi Coast, but the Amalfi Coast really starts at Positano, and you go Positano, Priano, Amalfi, Ravello, etc., and that's in the county of Salerno. So Sorrento is really, you come 45 minutes, 30 minutes south of Naples. It looks the same. It is the same. And by the way, it's a phenomenal place. I've been here a number of times, never spent an evening here till this year, and I've had a few, 4 days here now. So it's wonderful. It's just like those other ones. And so I'd have to correct myself for the show, because I always, until this week, I always believed it was considered the Amalfi Coast.
So if you're describing the Amalfi Coast to someone, again, who hasn't been there, what, even within Italy, what sets it apart for you?
The buildings, the character of the place. It's built on a mountainside, essentially. All the houses are, if you think of LA, where all houses were falling in the water and everything else during the hurricane there, or the storms. I've never heard of a hurricane or a tornado here, but everything's built on the side of a mountain. Yeah. It's almost like multicolored hills, like a pastel hillside overlooking the water, with beautiful areas, great shopping areas, small streets, shops all over, old buildings. It's amazing how old some of the buildings are, hundreds of years old. Yeah. And yet they're functional, they're pretty, they're clean, they're just unique. The structures are so unique. And there's so many good places here now, because I'd say one of the hottest places in Italy now is Puglia. And we were there, we did a show from there a couple of years ago. And they've got like big caves where restaurants are built into the cave. And I'm talking about not a little cave. I'm talking about caves that might be an eighth of a mile high and wide and stuff like that. And you're looking at it from the center of town, a cave hanging over the water, and there's a restaurant there. That's what's built there. These areas are all like that. The structures are so unique, so different, that I guess it's the age of the structures and the way they maintain it, and how nice it is, that and so functional and so inviting and warm, that you can't help but want to go here. Once you come here, you're done. Yeah. I mean, all you do is you want to see more and more and more. I've never seen anybody or heard anybody who really wants to say, well, I've been there, done that, I'm not going back. No, they'll say, I'm going back, I might see a different place, but I'm definitely going back.
100% true. There's no the truth in this case cannot be controversial. Lou Nanne is indeed joining us from, what's your current location, you said? What town?
Sorrento.
Okay.
We're over at the Grand Hotel Ambasciatori, which is, I don't know how old this building is, 100 years old. The hotel is phenomenal. It's magnificent. It was built yesterday, but it wasn't. And the colors in it, and the way it's laid out, and where you are on the water, and the way it is, it's just different. Every time I come here, so someplace in Italy, I find something like this that draws me back.
Let's try to squeeze in a little bit of hockey, shall we? This has been a lot of fun, actually, and our listeners love it. But maybe it feels a little less, vital to talk hockey because of what took place, as you know, in Game 3. Panthers dominate 6-1 to go up 2-1. Is it the kind of victory that makes you think this series might be over, or is that an overreaction to any single outcome?
I think that's an overreaction to any outcome. The reason why I say that, I've said it many times on the radio before, in a playoff game like that, I'd rather lose 6-1 than 3-2. Yeah. Because you can say, we had a bad night, the goalie had a bad night, we're out of it, let's go. And the capability. If you remember last year, and you just have to go back to last year, that the way Edmonton early on got blown out and it looked like they were out of it down 3, and they bounced back to almost win it in 7. So that these things, and this year, look at Edmonton got beat in the first 2 games from LA, and I don't think any team that's ever lost the first 2 games in the first series has ever come back to win a Stanley Cup. But they came back to, walk over LA, and they kept marching and beat Dallas much easier than people thought. So you can't count this team out. And one of the things, I don't know, I didn't watch the game, of course, because it's in the middle of the night, but I got up and this morning I watched the goals and I watched some of the other stuff, and there was something that happened late in the game that maybe people just thought that's a reaction when you're getting beat 4-1 and you're going to have at the time, and you might as well set some records straight and get some accounts settled. And Frederick cross-checked Sam Bennett to start the ruckus that they had, 140 minutes of penalties, whatever. But if you watch the time that he cross-checked him, he did it twice. And the second time, he broke his stick over Bennett's left arm. Now, I don't know what the result of that was. You can't, many times your arm goes numb, you come back, you play, you don't know. But how bad is he going to be for the next game tomorrow, Bennett? And that could be a crucial thing. I haven't seen anybody talk about it or think about it, but right now, if I was Florida, the thing I'd be most concerned about is that Bennett wasn't hurt or wasn't hurt badly that could affect his game, because he's been such a key player for them. And you know that Edmonton's going to come back with a better game. And Skinner did have a bad game. Now the key is, and I would think they're going to bring him back. They pulled him with 16 minutes to go. So he's played well enough since the first couple games of the original first round series that I know that the coach has got to come back with him. So how's he going to be, and how's Bennett going to be, are two big question marks.
I think the Oilers ended up with 85 penalty minutes, which is the most in a Cup final round game since 1986. So basically almost 40 years. Why? Again, you can talk about settling accounts and all that stuff, and we're losing. So what the hell's the difference? I still think, though, it's such a bad look for the game in the Stanley Cup Finals, Louis. I don't understand it. I don't know what it accomplishes. To me, it just makes the Oilers look more desperate. Why is that still, at least in part, in hockey culture?
Well, you just stated a fact that says it's not a big part of culture, because it hasn't happened for that long.
Yeah.
And occasionally you're going to have a situation and somebody's going to go different and screw things up, because that doesn't usually happen in the playoffs, and certainly not in the Stanley Cup Finals, as you just pointed out. But I think at that time, first of all, Frederick's not really a producing forward. He's a physical forward. Mm-hmm. They're frustrated, and he's got a chance. He's a free agent, going into the off season. I'm sure he wants to make his presence felt. They're frustrated. Bennett's the type of player that could, he plays aggressive, so he takes in the boards hard, and there's a reaction. And then when he got hit the way he did, then there was sort of everybody coming to protect Bennett, because they saw he was hurt, getting cross-checked, and Frederick, who was a tough kid, and that's, been his job, is basically being an enforcer. And so people responding to him, going to him, so then, of course, Edmonton's forwards and defensemen have to come and help Frederick out, and then you got everybody in the ice involved. It's ludicrous. It's bad luck. It's not needed. It's stupid. But it gets done occasionally, and the one thing you know about the Florida team is they play like a pack. They play like a pack of wolves. They back one another. They work for one another. They support one another. They think alike, and that's the kind of game they have. And when you're playing like that all the time, you get people really upset and frustrated. And when you get some tough kids on a team like Edmonton does, you get a response, and then you get the result. Yeah,
they smell blood, man, don't they? They're the kind of team that
they do.
When they get it going, it's kind of scary. I mean, I'm just looking at these scores through the postseason. Again, it was one game, but that was 6-1. Go back to Carolina 6-2, 5-0, 5-2, 6-1 over Toronto in the deciding game. Another 6-1 over Toronto. I mean, their goal differential is absurd in the postseason.
That's what's most surprising. Yeah, that's a terrific point. That's exactly right, because you're talking playoff hockey, and the one thing that's usually very evident in playoff hockey is the competitiveness and the tightness of the play and you don't see big goal differentials. And that's why I say, if I'm Edmonton, I'm happy about the score last night than it being the 3-2, because in your mind, you're going to find 20 ways you should have won the game. And now they know they got to play a better game, smarter, and their goals got to be better. But it's amazing that they've done this in every series. Now, they've had a tough road. Florida hasn't come into this easily. They played tremendous hockey teams: Tampa, Carolina, Toronto, and playing those three teams and always having a game or two in a series against those teams with that kind of goal differential is really unique. It's different. It doesn't happen that often.
What was for dinner tonight earlier? What'd you have?
Well, I had a pasta. My wife and I split a pasta with veal, and the sauce was made out of veal, which is, that was the best pasta I've had in the trip, I told her. And you never have a bad one, but this was out of this world. And then her and I split. I had, because I've been eating pasta every day for the last 6 days, and so for both lunch and dinner. So I had a T-bone steak, and she had lamb, and we split those two.
Nice.
And then we split a crepe Suzette for dessert.
That sounds pretty good. That sounds like a pretty good combination.
It
right
is
there.
good.
Was it?
Oh, that was so good.
The pasta tonight, was it in more
And a couple bottles of Amarone with our friends.
Of course. More of a tomatoey sauce, cream sauce? How would you describe the sauce with the pasta?
Tonight was it was a light sort of veal sauce.
Okay.
A ragu. Last night we had risotto with a tomato sauce.
Oh, yeah.
And the day before I had like a Bongoli sauce. So we try them all, but
can't lose.
This one was this was a new one for me. I just fell in love with it.
Second straight week, by the way, just a sterling connection. Why is it when you're as far away as you've been the last 2 weeks, Marrakesh last week, Italy this week, the connection is perfect. And when we have Lavelle E. Neal III on from like 8 blocks from here, it sounds like he's in another country and the connection's bad and he can't hear us. It makes no sense.
Well, I think hockey players learned how to use a phone better than baseball
maybe that's
players.
it. Maybe that's what it is. Baseball writers, yeah. You might be right. What's your schedule now? Are you when is this trip wrapping up? Or are you just going to stay out for another month?
No, back to Rome tomorrow. To spend the day in Rome, and then Thursday we're back home.
Say hi to the Mussolini family for us, will you?
Will do. There was a Musso family with us, but
that's very different.
Mussolino.
Yeah. Well, maybe it was Mussolini family. They decided to change the name for the obvious reasons. They went with Musso. Couldn't blame them if they did. That's for sure. Thanks, Luigi. Great stuff as always. Safe travels, and we'll chat next week. Thank you, sir.
Okay, nice talking to you.
Always a pleasure.
Week.
That is
Thanks.
Lou Nanne, Dateline Amalfi Coast. Honestly, I know we got to get to hockey with him, and we did eventually, but the travelogue stuff is a whole lot of fun, at least for me. I hope for the audience as well.